if I turn the volume down, you won't hear that either. Actually, tell me if it's still. Actually, I don't know. Share it on there and maybe bring it up and make sure there's audio? I'll turn it down for a minute, just test to see if we can. Okay, so just try not to talk too loud anyways. Just turn your mic off. Oh, yeah, turn the volume up. You can hear better. All right, so let's let some people get on in here right quick. Looks pretty good, except for I hit the wrong... Where the hell? There we go. Much better. I figured you would.
Still can't hear myself, but I can hear you.
Okay, well, that's all that's important. I hope everybody else can hear you as well. Wait. Talk to me.
Can you hear me?
Oh, because your mic's not on.
Hey!
Now you can hear everybody.
I can hear everybody.
Okay, cool. I think we got it. Alrighty, so let's jump on in, shan't we?
We shall.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. All right, y'all. Let me shrink this on down so I can actually, look like I'm looking at you. That's the trick, right?
Me or
look
people?
Like I'm looking at them.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so just to be upfront with everybody, I've been nervous about this particular intro, and I don't know why. I can't for the life of me tell you why.
I get a text from you, and you're telling me that you're nervous about this.
Yeah,
you were actually nervous about talking to me about this.
Right. Yeah.
Well, explain to them as to why, and then we'll go forward.
That's just it, because I here typically on the show, I don't shy away from talking about uncomfortable subjects, and this one for me, I don't know why, but for some reason this one here seems like it's going to be an unpopular enough opinion that people might actually get pissed off, like really, really pissed off. But I'm trying to offer an alternative perspective, and so basically, let me just, having said that, let me just get started. So, ready?
Yeah.
All right. Unpopular opinion incoming. And to be fair, this is not meant as a slap in the face to any of you who are patriotic and proud of your country. My intention is to offer an alternative perspective, an unframe of mind, if you will. So, let's begin. It's been 18 years now, and you're all grown up. We can still remember when you were born like it was yesterday, and we've spent your entire life trying to figure you out. Your birth brought tears to our eyes. It opened our eyes to the possibilities of a brand new world in which we are brought closer together by our patriotism and fear. We even named you so that everyone would always remember when you came into this world, but few even bothered to ask why. People spent years of their lives talking about you. Some said the most terrible things about you. Some celebrated you, and some even said you weren't real. We became closer because of you. That much is true. But we didn't become closer because we loved you. Rather, we became closer because we shared in our fear and uncertainty of you. Depending on where we stood, you were either beautiful or disastrous. You taught us how to cherry pick the worst parts of each other's religious texts. You taught us how to oversimplify two worlds more complex than anyone could ever imagine. You taught us a valuable but unlearned lesson about the pitfalls of revenge. You became a symbol of hatred between two wildly different cultures who knew next to nothing about one another. A false dichotomy that made it easy to dehumanize and demonize the other. A catastrophic wedge that made it easy to forget there are good people, evil people, angels, and demons on both sides. You made it easy to forget there is a struggle, strife, hope, and humanity. You made it easy to forget there are people capable of loving and hating, sinning and sainting. Even though we're told every year on your birthday that we should never forget. I will never forget, as this day is burned in my mind, the 3,000 plus victims that died the day you were born. I will also never forget the price of vengeance that has accumulated since. On this day, let us remember the nearly 7,000 U.S. soldiers who gave their lives, the 48,000 Iraqis, Afghanis, and Pakistanis, the majority of which were civilians, nor the estimated millions who have lost their lives as a result of disease, displacement, and the loss of critical infrastructure who died in the name of vengeance and patriotism and fear. All in the name of seeking justice, which was never found. Happy birthday, 9/11. You're all grown up.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your hosts battle the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
Alrighty, and we're back. So, that was fun. And of course, before we get into really discussing the topic at hand.
Are you glad that we got past that now?
I am. Again, I don't know why I was nervous, but it was just something that was really in my heart, So
that was well said.
I had to get it out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, before we begin, let's start with our favorite segment of the show, the faux business, of course.
Faux business. Faux business. Faux business.
All right, so on today's episode of the Phobismist, we have a special topic that I think you guys will all agree is something that is highly offensive.
It's the old pumps.
It's these. And it's not showing yet. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's the Reebok pumps. These things, like, are so offensive. Like, you have no idea. And once I spell it out for you, you will understand exactly why these things are super, super offensive. Would you like to take a stab in the dark before I give my take on this? Or
I look at it this way. I think it's racial profiling.
oh,
And the reason why I say that is because I think this was geared more towards white individuals that played basketball that couldn't jump as high as black men. So they were probably trying to sell this as, well, if you pump these things up, then all of a sudden you can play basketball like a black man and jump as high as they can. I mean,
wow.
that's kind of where I'm
All
going
right.
with
Yeah,
it.
see, I am offended by that. I didn't even think of that angle. I actually was running this by a few people at work, and I ran
Yeah.
it past one of my black friends, and he's like, and then the version I came up with, he's like, nah, that one's not very good, because he's usually pretty cool about this kind of thing. So I was like, let me see what he thinks, because I'm really touching on some ground. I'm not going to say that one because it really wasn't that good. I thought it was funny, kind of, but anyway, what I came up with was even better. Because and even more offensive, I might add.
Okay.
These things are offensive because poor little kids in wheelchairs had to stand by and idly watch as other kids with feet were able to pump up and actually move faster. Like, these kids were actually able to go super fast, but the kids in the wheelchairs were they didn't have the ability to pump up their shoes and move faster. Nor did Reebok think to come out with a pumps wheelchair that little kids could be on the side. You pump up their little wheelchair.
How does that go again?
They pump up their little wheelchair and they take off like a bat out of hell. I mean, I want to see flames flying behind these guys' tires because you guys care about the handicap that much. Okay?
Oh, man. That's great.
Anyway, yeah. So, and this is how I feel about it. I know it's been a long time. This is something that has happened long time ago. And the way I feel about it is, if Kevin Hart had to go back and apologize for his offensive jokes about homosexuals, by God, Reebok, get in there and you apologize for the offensive shoes that you put out back in the 90s that were so popular amongst everyone.
I would still wear them.
I know that. I would still get down on my knees and just pump them up, and I go run super
I can
fast.
kind of see it now. You get like this video, the camera's coming in slow motion. It shows you leaning down and pumping them up, and that music kind of heightens, and all of a sudden you stand up and you're looking at a basketball goal, and you go to jump and try to dunk a basketball, and no, you can't do it. Still can't do it.
I need them to keep up with my kids now. I'm starting to get old enough that I can't keep up with them, so I need them just to be able to run as fast as them. It used to be that it would make you run, plus extra fast, but now it's like
They had to
lost
keep
a few
up with
points.
us this past weekend.
Yeah, they really did.
They struggled.
Yeah. All right, so that's your episode of the Phobismist for this week, and back to the topic at hand. So basically, I know. Believe it or not, I did not know today was going to be 9/11 until about 2 days ago, when one of the guys at work was like, "Hey, what are you guys going to talk about for the 9/11 show?"
Yeah, I said something to you in Telegram about it.
I know, and then you said something that same day, right after that, and I looked at my calendar. I'm like, oh shit, because I don't really keep track of the date. I keep track of the day of the week.
Right.
That's how I keep time.
Yeah.
And I feel terrible, but it's like, that's a good point. We really probably should do something because it does fall live. Our live show does fall on that day.
The anniversary date.
Right. So I figured we just start off with the usual stuff. This isn't a show that's meant to try to purposely offend anybody or anything like that, but we are trying to bring some different perspectives, honor and remembrance of the people who died that day, and it's just we want to bring you something that you're not going to get anywhere else. We're not going to sit here and bitch about conspiracy theories or anything like that. Even some of them might have some legs to stand on. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit about that, as it comes up, because I want to let the conversation kind of flow naturally, but I kind of wanted to start off with, where were you that day? Like, what was your experience like? What did you see? Who were you with? That kind of thing. And just because I don't think either one of us have told that story on the show before.
No, I haven't. I was actually working for Big Lots at the time, over off Nolensville Road, and I was working in the stock department. And we went in around 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're the only ones there until I think 8 or 9 o'clock, until they open the doors to the public. So with that being said, we there's quite a bit in the chat.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we have, I guess it's like a satellite radio that plays throughout the store as we're putting up stock. And all of a sudden the feed just cut. Like there was no music whatsoever. So I went to the back to the
Oh, you talking about like on the loudspeakers?
yeah, because like when you go into any kind of like a department store,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have
that
the satellite radio and whatever. And
background music playing all
yeah,
the time.
so that just stopped. So I went back to the break room to find out why the music stopped playing, and we had a small television that was in the break room, and it was on the news. And at that time when I walked in, Tower 1 had already been hit. And I couldn't really put the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, what the hell's going on here? And why are they showing one of the World Trade centers? At that point, I didn't know it was a terrorist attack, and I didn't know it was a plane that went into Tower 1.
Yeah, you just
That
saw
I just
live
saw
footage of,
right. I just saw that it was on fire, and I was like, oh shit, that's what the hell's going on? So more of us came back into the break room, and all of a sudden it was like, bam, the second tower was hit. And we were like, holy shit. That was when everybody kind of started to put two and two together that this was a plane that hit Tower 1 and now that has hit Tower 2. And unfortunately, we were at work, so, life does continue on for us. And,
right.
and so we had to go back to work, but I found myself constantly just kind of migrating to the break room with nobody seeing me, and I was keeping up with the news.
Yeah,
and then I started to learn about the the Pentagon. The Pentagon, was hit, and then, of course, the plane that went down and in the field. So it was just like it was one after another. And I remember going home, and my mom, she heard everything that was going on, and she turned on the news, and it was a bizarre feeling, and I really can't explain it, and I'm probably sure other people have felt the same way. You just kind of felt like. You felt helpless. You felt like, is this really happening right now? Is this really, really happening? Because if you think on American soil, we have not seen anything like this since Pearl Harbor. So I'm thinking to myself, this is Pearl Harbor all over again, but just on a bigger scale. And I never thought in my life, because at that time I was only, 2001,
Yeah.
I was 20 years old. So it's like,
and the U.S. almost seemed like invincible at the time.
we'll
never get hit.
Well, I mean, I guess it
never
because
even crossed your mind, really.
Well, given the time frame in which I grew up, we never encountered any kind of major terrorist attack.
Right.
No major kind of event that had taken place. So I was never exposed. I've always read everything that you heard about in our textbooks, back in school, Pearl Harbor and, and other events throughout the world. So this for me was like, I'm living in this now.
Yeah.
This has now become my reality and something that I'm watching. And I found myself glued to the TV for like the next 2 weeks. I did nothing but watch the news, like wanting to know what was going on, why this was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to get all the information that I could. So it was just a very bizarre time.
So can you do me a favor before I tell my story?
Yeah.
Can you talk to the comments for just a second? Because I forgot to grab something I really needed for this.
Go
give me
ahead.
just a second.
So yes, my mic was turned off. We've actually have recently have gotten some new equipment. We have a new camera that we just got that we don't have set up just at the moment. I've got new headphones. So, but yeah, let's see. Very well said, Daniel. No fear. Yeah, his opening monologue to this was probably one of the most well written monologues that he's done since he's been doing the show in the last 3 years. So, what about people with no feet? I can't tell you that. It's like, I guess it's there's nothing you could do about that. I guess give them like gloves with pumps on them and see what they can do from there. I don't know. My goal was Larry Bird. I tell you what, my mom had a chance to meet Larry Bird and Kevin McHale back in the day, and she said that they were some pretty outstanding people. So, and white dude, yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I tell you what, though, they could always bring those back, and they could actually target, my own, I guess Mexicans for if they ever wanted to try to scale the walls, kind of give them some incentive to use the pumps, So, but waiting on Daniel to get back because apparently he forgot something. What the hell did you forget, dude?
Find it.
What?
Son of a bitch. All right, I couldn't find it.
Okay, all right. Well, what was it?
Now I'm bummed out. I'll tell you.
Okay, all right.
I'm bummed out because I would have liked to have shown it too. It's kind of neat, interesting.
I can always unzip my pants.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat and interesting, but also not very congruent with the topic of tonight's show.
Yeah.
Anyway, basically, so when I had 2001, I graduated in '02. So this was my junior year, I would say, September 2001. It's my senior year because I graduated the following year, 2002.
Okay.
So, sorry, I viewed the comments. Not supposed to do that while you're in the middle of a thought, dipshit. All right. Anyway, I'm in art class, which is during my senior year is where I spent, I think 5 or 6 out of my class periods I spent in that room because I didn't really have a full schedule.
Right.
So I'd be in there during lunch. I'd be in there for my actual art class, and then I'd be in there for other times when I had downtime and just doing work all the time. And that's it came over the loudspeaker while we were in class, and they announced that Tower 1's been hit over the
Really?
over the intercom. Yeah, they're like just telling, hey, breaking in the middle of your school day to say some shit that, normally they don't say stuff in the middle of the day on the intercom. So
That's a little bizarre that they would publicly announce it over the intercom.
yeah, they did, and it kind of left us all going, oh, what's that even mean? Like hell, 17, 18-year-olds, we don't know what the hell Twin Towers even was. Most of us, Twin Towers. And
most of y'all hadn't even been to New York. So.
I've never been to New York. I didn't know nothing about it. We were living in Wichita, Kansas at the time, and it was just like we were sitting there going, what the hell? What's that mean? What's going on? And it was just kind of, it was almost weird putting us in this situation where we were kind of lost. We didn't have TVs to watch the news feed on or nothing like that. So we're kind of having to wait until, we get frequent updates throughout the day, or I can't even remember if they sent us home early or anything like that. I don't think they did, but it was just bizarre. Like, just wondering what the heck's going on.
Can you imagine what social media would have been like back then if the events of September 11th happened, say today?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine what Twitter and Facebook and Instagram would look like right now?
Oh my gosh, we would have so much footage of that. Like just from people just right there being able to record it. I mean, if there was any conspiracy theories, you'd be able to see probably tens of thousands of different angles on it to be able to make sure that, oh yeah, it's legit, that really did happen, or it didn't happen, because look at all this. You would have had people instantly jumping on there and talking about, what's really happening, who's behind it. You'd still have the conspiracy theories, but it would move along so much faster.
Well,
you wouldn't have to wait for a decade for a 9/11 commission report to come out before you can finally start going, now wait a minute, this doesn't add up. Now you would have found out probably a lot faster for all that stuff.
I think one of the reasons why I have a big issue with people bringing up conspiracy theories on the actual anniversary date is the fact that you're diminishing the fact that 3,000 people lost their lives based off of conspiracy theory. I think that's what bothers me the most, is that this is a day that you're just trying to, the firefighters, those people in those buildings, they didn't know if it was a conspiracy theory. They didn't know if anybody was behind it. All they know is the job in which they were trained to do, and that was to save lives.
Now, help me understand that, because I don't really quite get the idea that having a conspiracy theory, or at least an alternative theory about what happened or why it happened, I don't understand how that diminishes the lives that were lost, because it's just people trying to come up with an answer about why it happened.
I understand it. They're coming up with an answer, but like I told you earlier, you've got 364 days to talk conspiracy all you want. Mm-hmm. To me, today is strictly about the people who lost their lives.
Yeah.
The police, the firefighters, the people in the buildings. That's what that's the human element of today. That is what needs to be the focal point of why we remember today. Yeah. If you want to talk conspiracy, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it, a week from now. I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. But today, let's just kind of hone in on the human side of this and realize that people were jumping out of a building burning, or a building that was on fire. Sorry, I'm kind of getting my words kind of jumbled, but these were people that took over a plane, that risked their lives to try to make sure that another building wasn't hit, and drove it into the ground. That is, you want to remember the hero side of this day, right, that people try to bring to save a fellow man. Let's take the politics out of it. Let's take the conspiracy theories out of it. Let's just remember today as a day that people were just trying to save one another. When strangers became friends, and friends, and eventually became family, is the way I looked at it. Because you got these guys that are on this plane that are trying to come up with the plan to overtake it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that needs to be celebrated for what it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
you know,
that mode of thinking that you have. I wish more people thought that way. That they were more willing to take a moment, step back, and just get out of the daily grind of the politics of it all, and just remember the people, the good the good things. It seems like with a lot of these events that happen, you have the same. I mean, it makes sense that on the anniversary of something that would happen, that it would become a big talking point, and now suddenly people want to talk about it. And I mean, I can't fault people for that.
No, that's fine.
That.
I'm not upset that people want to go that route.
And I liked what you did as far as the Facebook group. You didn't even talk to me about it, but I was like, I think you know me well enough that I was like totally on board with that. That we just suggested everybody take a day to not even post in the group. Like we just go ahead and just take this day. Don't worry about getting on Facebook. Just enjoy your families and remember the day for what it is. And that was pretty cool. I like that. I think that shows humility and a human side of what we do to people. To know that we're not just here to talk about all the crazy shit in the world. We're here to talk about real shit. Stuff that actually affects people and has a deep impact on their lives. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, the purpose of doing that is just say, let's take a time out from social media. Let's take a time out from talking politics or conspiracy theories. And let's just be a day to where we can just kind of hone in on the families and the lives that were lost. That's all.
So let me head over to the comments section for just a minute here. But my mom piped in. She said, "Oh, I didn't get to the rest of my story," but she said, "No, I went the whole day." Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't remember going home early, but I know some people. You hear so many of these stories that you start to kind of mix in other people's stories into your story a little bit. Some people were like, "Yeah, they let us out of school." Anyway, I've heard that enough, but we did not, I guess. Anyway, years and years later, it had to have been in the 2010s of some whatever the teens. My buddy from high school comes over to visit my house in Tennessee, where we lived in Columbia. Sorry, brain fart. I was like, where is that place we just lived before we lived here? And we lived over in Columbia, and he came to visit. It'd been the first time I'd really seen him in years and years. So we were just reminiscing and going through old artwork and shit that I had sitting around the house. And he was going through looking at them and stuff, and he noticed that one of them, the date on it was 9/11/01. I was like,
really?
I was like, that's interesting. Let me see that. So I held it up and I looked at it, and you know what this picture was? It's the one I turned it. That's the day I turned it in. I signed it, I dated it, turned it in that day. And I had drawn it before that day. So this wasn't like I heard the announcement and then was inspired and then did this. No, this picture I did the night before. I was working on it a few days prior up to it. And what the picture was is it was a yin yang, which was kind of hot in the 90s. Everybody wanted to do yin yangs, and everybody wanted to do dragons. But so I had dragons and yin yangs. It was everybody was doing that symbiology. But what made this unique and what made it interesting is that the dragons were actually twin dragons attached at the tail around the yin yang.
Yeah.
It was like, I know it doesn't, maybe it's just coincidental, but it's just kind of cool that, I just happened to be drawing twin dragons on, and turned it in that day, finished it that day when the Twin Towers fell. I was like, I don't know what to make of that.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this much. So about 2 years later, 2 years after September 11th, found out that my uncle and my aunt had moved out to D.C. My uncle was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, so he was then transferred to the Pentagon. I had decided that I was going to go out there for Thanksgiving to visit with them, and I've never been to Washington, and wanted to kind of see the sights and do that whole thing. So I get out there. Now, at this point, security is still real heightened. I mean, to get through the airport, you literally had to get there like maybe 2.5 hours before your scheduled flight.
Yeah.
It was still, especially around the holidays.
I never experienced that because I've never flown, but I do remember.
Oh, dude, it was a nightmare. So I fly into Baltimore because a lot of the flights that were going into D.C. they were all booked up.
Yeah.
So my uncle, who was in the Air Force at that time, came in, he drove up to Baltimore, and of course they lived in Virginia, and he came and got me from the airport. It was like maybe an hour and a half drive. Wasn't too bad. So we're there, and the very next day, we decided that we were going to do the tour of the Pentagon. Now, this was my first chance to be in a place where September 11th did happen. And I kind of got a little emotional about that because, you're walking into a building that was impacted, on that day. So we get there, security clearance is, oh my God, thank God because of his, security clearance. During that time, they weren't offering tours in the White House, and they weren't offering public tours to, in the Pentagon.
Right.
So we had to stay with my uncle throughout the whole thing.
Wow,
Now,
so you kind of got a special, not treatment, but something that the normal public
yeah.
weren't. I can't find my words today.
it was pretty wild because we went to the outer ring, as they call it, of the Pentagon to see where they actually, where all this, happened. And I tell you what, it was an eerie feeling because you walk through there and you see nothing but drywall. You see where they're still trying to finish up the last that section of the Pentagon.
Right.
And I'll never forget it. And I don't know why this stands out to me, but at the bottom of the hallways, there are these strips of arrows. And I looked over at my uncle and I said, hey, what is this for? He goes, well, in the event of a fire or smoke, when you're on your hands and knees and having to crawl out, they illuminate, they glow in the dark, and the arrows tell you which way to go in order to exit the building. I thought that was kind of wild. It was something they implemented after 9/11. So we went through there, and then we went into what was, I think it's called the Hall of Heroes. And on this wall, there's a guest book that's right in the middle. But on this wall were all the names and recipients of people who lost their life that day. And then on one side, the people that were awarded the Silver Star. The other side was the people who were awarded the Purple Heart.
No, I know what the Purple Heart is. What's the Silver Star again?
I don't want to. I can't think of it off the top of my head. If you guys know, just spit it out there. But in the middle was a guest book for people to sign. Right. And then off to, like if you're looking at it head on, off to the right, there's a little chapel for people to go and pray and, and things of that nature. So that was actually the heart of where the Pentagon was hit, was the Hall of Heroes, and then, of course, where the chapel was. So that to me was kind of like, as we're talking about, as we aged, this was 2 years after September 11th, and then, going and seeing that, and it was just an eerie feeling.
Did it kind of make it almost more real to you?
Yeah, I mean, it did, but in the same sense too, and this is where I kind of,
I mean, not that it was fake to you before, but like maybe there was, just made it a little more
well, just the
solid
element of just shock value of being there, knowing what took place that day. It all comes flooding back.
Right.
The 2 weeks of watching the news, hearing about it when I was at work, watching it on TV, all that shit just really starts to stream back to you. And I mean, it was a good trip, because it was around Thanksgiving and I got to spend some time with family. But it's just, that's one of those moments that's a period in your life that you just don't forget. That's one of those trips that you just, no matter how many things you go through in life, you don't forget that. That's cool. That ingrains itself inside of you.
You mentioned wanting to go see the 9/11 memorial
at
some point in your life.
Yeah, I'd like to go. I really want to go on the anniversary date up to New York City and see the memorial, and just kind of pay tribute to that. But after that time, I had a lot of buddies that signed up to join the military, and
I heard about that too.
I lost two of my buddies over in Afghanistan, and I have another buddy of mine who got out probably about, I want to say 4 years ago, finally. Mm-hmm. But he enlisted right after September 11th. And I remember going to
I got a buddy of mine as well. From one of my best friends from high school he was already in ROTC. I think he was already heading the military route anyway. But he ended up getting stationed over in Germany for a while, and then over in Afghanistan for a while. So I can't even imagine. But I think I don't know a whole lot about what he saw and did over there. I'd like to talk to him about it more, to find out, what his experience was with that. But it'd be kind of an interesting perspective, just based on what we know has happened in the aftermath, as far as
Well, and that's something that I've talked to a good buddy of mine that did go. And like I said, he just recently got out of the military. He finally retired, but it fucked him up. It did. I mean, just the shit that they saw over in Iraq. I mean, we'll get onto that, another day if we ever go down that road. But it's just interesting to see how much it changed the lives of those around you, and the people that you never thought would join the military did because of that day.
I loved that, like, right after that happened, it was like everybody in America had an American flag on their car, on their house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Patriotism was at peak levels.
You couldn't buy an American flag anywhere you went.
Yeah, you basically had to paint your own if you really wanted one, and then even then, it was probably hard to buy to find the red, white, and blue paint. It's probably sold out. But it was just, it's quite a thing to see, and it's a shame too that it takes such a massive shock event like that to get people to realize how much they have in common.
Yeah.
How much they value each other.
Mm-hmm.
It really kind of bums me out that it takes that before people can step back and go, oh, we can love each other. We can get along despite our differences. We don't have to sit there and keep fighting and squabbling over this dumb shit. It kind of puts it into perspective that, maybe there's bigger forces at work here that we can all join forces and battle. It's almost a lot of people talk about the only way we're going to end all these wars in the world is if we're invaded by aliens, and then suddenly everybody can find a commonality or common ground to battle against a common enemy. It's like that's a damn shame that has to be that way.
Kind of reminds me of the movie Independence Day.
Yeah, basically the whole world all of a sudden, everybody loves each other. It's like, come on,
I think
it shouldn't take that. It
really
shouldn't.
And something that we discussed earlier was the fact that everybody gets so pumped up to be, united as one, united we stand, united we fall, all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden, a year later, I feel like that just dissipated. It just kind of went away. And then we went back to our normal lives. We went back to celebrating our patriotism on specific days of the year again.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm an American on July 4th. I'm an American on 9/11.
Yeah, and then Memorial Day, and it's like,
Day,
why should we only have 3 holidays in which we are proud to be an American and proud to be patriots? You know me well enough to know I'm like this 24 hours, 7 days a week. I mean, that's
You're basically all American hero GI Joe minus the BDUs.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just I don't understand.
Although you'd probably look pretty stunning in some BDUs, wouldn't you?
We can always try to find out. First time for everything. So
just to hit up some comments here, Tina Robinson says that all the classrooms at my high school with TVs had them on so we could watch the news coverage. I bet that was nice because you weren't kind of left in the dark.
Right.
That's the one thing I didn't like, is just kind of being left in the dark, wondering what the hell's going on. Anthony, Cloud9 Customs, that's Jeremy. If you haven't seen that episode, please go back to last Wednesday and watch that, or catch it on podcast where I've edited it to a shorter version. It is probably one of my favorite episodes in a while, by the way. That was last Wednesday. But anyway, he says, Anthony, your Pearl Harbor comment just hit me hard. Very different perspective. And I actually wanted to bring something up because it really was similar in a lot of ways to the attack on Pearl Harbor, and not in the way that you were talking about as much, but in the way that why, like, the question for me is always like, why were they attacking in the first place? Like, what reason did they have to attack us?
Talking about Pearl Harbor?
Both of them, and there's a lot of similarities between the two, as far as U.S. intervention in terms of different restrictions they were putting on trade routes and things like that. In terms of just, they were putting economic pressure on these other people, and they were doing, they were over there meddling in their affairs, basically. I just learned this from Dan Carlin's Hardcore History that he had just came out earlier this year about the way all that came about, the Pearl Harbor thing. And a lot of it was Japan was in the process of kind of overtaking China. They were conquering, and there was constant battles and things going on. So they were already making their way into the mainland China, and they were getting more and more powerful.
Right.
Well, U.S. didn't like that. They were like, "Nah, y'all are getting too big for your britches, so we're going to put our fingers on the lever here, and do it in kind of a way where nobody's going to get all mad about it that wherever they're attacking you,
Right.
we'll just control your trade routes and put your sanctions on you and whatnot." And it actually ended up causing quite a bit of strife and struggle in those areas where people were like having like a lot of the things that they needed to operate or eat weren't available all of a sudden. And you end up getting a situation where they needed to do something to either get the U.S. off their back or make them at least come out in the open and say, "Hey, all right, we're actually in a war. Let's be open about it here." And that's kind of what led to Japan. I'm not justifying it, saying it was good,
Right.
but you know, seeing it from their perspective and hearing the story from that angle really kind of makes you go, "Oh, I guess I could kind of understand why the desperation." Because you know, you think about the U.S. as such a huge enemy. And then a little island country like Japan to just attack us like that, you had to have been desperate because you can't possibly think that you're going to take us on head on.
Well, it would have been one thing if they would have went after our country just in general, but they went after the military. That's the difference. They knew what they were doing. They were going after our superpower, which is the military at that time. So
Right.
if you cripple the military, you leave the U.S. pretty much vulnerable at that point, and that's what they ended up doing.
Ideally, you could have. I don't know what all the specifics were, and I don't think anybody knows exactly why they did, how they did, or what the strategic plan was for it.
Right.
But what I'm pointing to is the similarities between the two. You know, the fact that the U.S. is already over there kind of meddling in their affairs. We're already putting sanctions on them, just like, you know, and we're still doing it today. And
Yeah.
it's like, at what point do we just mind our own fucking business and just, you know, yeah, I get it. I hear this from the guys at work. We'll be talking, and they're like, "Well, if we don't go over there and get them, they're going to come over here." And I was like, "Well, you know, it costs a hell of a lot more to attack than it does to defend. That's actually a tactic that we taught Osama bin Laden in his, you know, is you just let your enemy keep attacking you. They're going to run out of funds eventually. They can't keep that up forever. That's very expensive.
Right.
But to defend yourself, you know, I'm a big proponent of the non-aggression principle, and it's like unless I am actually being attacked, I don't feel like there's any need to attack somebody else. You know, yeah, they're fucked up. They got their own things going on over there. Like, I don't agree with what they got going on. I don't agree with half the shit we got going on. But it's like, at the same time, I can kind of understand why the desperation, why the need to make a big impact and attack. Again, not saying it was the right thing to do. It was terrible.
So
It's like you kind of got to understand. I'm trying to tiptoe around this without just trying to piss people off here, but it's just trying to take the time and look at it from different perspectives and kind of understand what the driving force was for people to do something like that and think that was the right move for them, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate that anytime, you know, countries are meddling in certain things, ultimately it's civilians that have to pay the ultimate price when it comes to situations like this. But going back to
on that point, that's something that's kind of new to modern warfare that didn't used to be a thing back in the day. Like pre World War One, I think it was pre World War One. A number of the all of the battles pretty much that were fought on terms where, hey, y'all, we're going to meet out here at this field at, you know, this day, and we're going to battle it out. You know, it really wasn't a whole lot
the
of
civilian casualties were very minimal.
That was was kind of a new thing in terms of the rules of engagement in war around.
Well, I think a lot of it is that if you inflict, you know, some kind of pain and suffering to, you know, civilians, that tends to draw a lot of heartstrings. That tends to you know, to place the blame on others is it's so easy to do.
Much easier. The patriotism goes way up, and everybody gets along great.
Well,
and everybody gets on the same page of like, yeah, we need to go after those bastards.
Now,
and I get that too.
Well, I mean,
that's the shame. I understand both perspectives.
Right,
here.
but
like,
the correlation between, you know, Pearl Harbor and September 11th is that we have not seen a significant, you know, attack on the U.S. since then.
Right.
The casualty difference is really not too far off. But with that being said, you know, if you look at the time in which Pearl Harbor was hit, the women took over the workforce, you know, and it was one of those things where with September 11th, we all came together as one. We try to unite the country. But then somewhere along the way, we kind of, it's almost like people got exhausted
Yeah.
or they got tired of the patriotism. But then politics got involved, and the conspiracy theories, and then then all of a sudden you find yourself like, well, this isn't very patriotic if this was an inside job. This isn't very patriotic if it was, politicians are using this to gain political votes. People shy away from that shit, dude. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. You can talk conspiracy theories all day long, but that essentially, it takes away the spirit of the American people coming together. Of course, we all want answers. I understand that.
Right.
I wholeheartedly do. But you have to understand what that does to a population that's trying to come together and, for humanity's sake,
Here's the problem with conspiracy theories, though, is that some of them are actually true.
I'm not saying they're not true.
I mean, right. What I'm saying is that's the problem, and people do come up with wild ideas, but some of them are actually true. And,
right.
And the reason people start coming up with these theories is because they know that they've been lied to by their own government in the past, like stone cold smoking gun proof. So it's like it's easy to understand why people would be looking for alternative solutions when the official narrative doesn't fit. It's like we do. I mean, you and I do it all the time on the show when we see a big news story that the media is like, "Oh, look at this racist guy over here," and then we see the whole story. I saw a clip that was going around the internet that was amazing with a little black boy and a little white boy. Running up to each other and giving each other a big old hug.
Oh yeah, but the only part of the video you see is the. Okay.
Yeah. So they run up to each other, give each other a big old hug, and the caption on it, the guy that posted it was like, and they're trying to tell us that racism is a big huge deal in the country. And it's like, and then somebody else did a parody of it, not a parody, but they did a clip pretending to be CNN. And they showed just the end of the clip where the little black boy's running away and the white boy's chasing after him. They're playing tag or whatever they're playing, and they rewrote the headline as little black boy chases down or little white boy chases down a black boy on the streets or something. And it just kind of showcases how ridiculous it's all gotten. Where I think, like you mentioned earlier, the social media aspect of it. Like, even if this happened today, the social media aspect, you would have people instantly already coming up with alternative theories, already checking the documents, already looking into the different sources and trying to figure out and trying to chase down. And it would happen at such an accelerated rate that our heads would spin. Yeah. That maybe we, instead of having five alternative theories, we'd have 100 alternative theories. And it's just like, holy crap, man! It's hard not to when you're constantly being lied to all the time.
Yeah, it's not to say that things couldn't be believed or the conspiracies aren't true. It's just, again, it's okay. We'll pick up that conversation tomorrow. You know, innocent lives were lost today. Let's kind of focus our heads on that.
I totally like that mode of thinking. I think more people should be like that. I really do. I want to hit up the comments one more time here. The Zep1 says they're going to kiss. I don't know if they're talking about you and I, but I mean, maybe that, stay tuned for later in the show. Maybe we'll have a little, show. Also subscribe to us on pornhub.com/Unframe of Mind.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
For every stroke, we plant a tree.
So mom Patricia Wagner, my mom, she says it was great when everyone came together, but you're right. It should be that way always. Yeah, that's yeah, it does break my heart too.
So how as a nation do we get back to that? Seeing how divided we are today, seeing how politics is really kind of threw a wedge between...
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that in that intro piece earlier, and I'd still like to hear what your thoughts were as I was reading that, because I was thinking about having you read that ahead of time, but I was like, nah, we'll just do it live. But as far as the wedge aspect of it, I alluded to that, was that I think there's this thing that we do where we want to simplify things and make it just us versus them, the wedge issue, the divide and conquer crap that I'm always talking about.
Right.
And it's like, if we're gonna see that level of patriotism again, it's gonna take a common enemy again. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it's gonna take another major something happening.
But don't people realize collectively, if we're this patriotic all the time, the possibilities of another foreign attack or another attack on U.S. soil probably wouldn't happen again.
You
I mean,
that
shows the strength of a country, and it shows the strength of a people And I'm sorry, but if I see that
Almost-
kind of
almost
level
like
of strength, I wouldn't want to mess with
Yeah,
that.
almost like a big, tough, confident guy walking down the
Yeah.
road versus a guy that's walking down the road kind of slouching down. And
Basically, Proud Boys Antifa.
Proud Boys versus Antifa. There you go. So the question
You know,
here,
Alpha versus Soy Boy. So
Patricia asks, the UN has a lot to do with why we and other countries are there, doesn't it? We're not the only country there or other places. Yeah, I think I'm not like totally super versed on foreign affairs, so do your own research on this, of course. But there is a lot of issues where we have these proxy wars going on, where say Russia and the United States are over in Syria, kind of fighting each other, but it's in a proxy kind of way. A lot of other countries have allies that are required to kind of jump in and help, when things go down. So it's like, while we're all not directly fighting, just in each other's face.
there is always some sort of war going on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of these wars are proxy wars for the superpowers. It's almost like they're playing chess over to the side and making you think, oh, we're getting along fine, we're good. And meanwhile, they're over here moving chess pieces in other parts of the world, and
it's kind of like this right here.
getting their frustration shit out.
You're
out
looking
over there.
away and you're trying to place your pieces where you want them. So let me ask you this. So what do you think it's going to take for us as Americans to get back to that level of patriotism? And if you don't think that we're there, what do you think it would take for us to get to that point again without there being actual
without an attack?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Based on what we've been looking at, part of me wants to point to all of the division that we already see that is constantly being
No, I mean, what I mean is, as an individual, what can you do to bring about that patriotism back, to kind of help spread it, to recognize it, to get people involved?
Almost. I guess if you think of it this way, it's like when you're patriotic, you're really proud. You have something to be proud of.
Oh yeah.
And when a number of us, like at least half the country already, is not proud even of our own figurehead.
Well, I'm not proud of my country, I would say, as of today, but I'm proud of the principles in which it was founded on.
Yeah,
I
wish we could get back to that.
And that's where sometimes I kind of wonder if I'm more constitutionalist than anything else.
I
because
think you are.
I'm deep seated in that kind of realm, because that's what I believe in. That's what the country was founded off of.
If I had to describe you, it'd be more of a minarchist constitutionalist, or even a libertarian. So Andy says there's evidence RT America, the Russian propaganda channel in the U.S., is deliberately quote unquote stirring the pot to have groups of people upset with one another. Yeah. There's evidence for even Facebook and Google and these major social media companies doing the same thing.
It's all over the place. It's not just with foreign countries and that are meddling,
and part of it's just because a lot of it just gets clicks. You make money when people are pissed. And I hate to say it, but people really like to engage when they're angry. Like, if you have a full social media feed of positive news, you kind of get bored with it for a while. People kind of get burn out on good news.
What's sad is when we have a show like this and we're openly talking about September 11th and things of that nature, we're not going to get nearly as many clicks and likes as, say, if we said something that was outlandish or threatened to hurt somebody, or if we were actually being racist. You know what I'm saying? Or we were being some way kind of destructive towards society.
If we sit here and spent the whole episode being super uber patriotic and going, fuck the Muslims and we need to go over there and kill every one of them, you know, if that's the message we were putting out, I think that would get a lot more people going, yeah. It's like that. It's engaging that fury that people have. It's like, but I like to be more of on the humanist side of just recognizing that those are people too. Like,
well,
we might have a problem with the figureheads of those governments and stuff, but for the most part, the people are just people doing what people do.
You know my stance on Muslims. I am not particularly fond of that religion or type of people.
Right, and that's okay. But my problem is when you actually go over there and start attacking them when they're not doing shit to you. At least, I mean, the average person over in a Middle Eastern country ain't doing shit to the average person.
Majority of the
States.
Muslims may not be harming other people, but they all read the Quran. They all believe in Allah. So
yeah, and I did allude to that as well in that intro. Talking about how we cherry pick the worst parts of each other's books. of our religious text. That's because they do the same thing with Christians too. I mean, don't get it twisted.
No, I'm not going to get it twisted.
They'll go through the Bible and look for the worst, most heinous shit and hold it against us, just like we're doing with theirs. I don't know. I don't know what's in their book. I know what I hear on the mainstream media.
I've had a chance to study the Quran, and it's man, you feel like you seriously have sold your soul to the devil when you read that book.
I mean, I think that
you should, and I think that you should research it and actually study it. Mm-hmm. And the times that I've had to be able to do that, I almost felt concerned for like my friends. I'm like, because we have Muslims here at home that are reading this exact same book that is feeding this ideology, whether they're violent or not. It is still spewing itself within our neighborhoods and with our cities and so forth. That is scary for me. That is really scary for me.
From my perspective as well, though, I could say the same thing about any religion for that matter.
Right.
I know Christians on the whole tend to be, one of the more peaceful religions, so I'm not as worried. But in the same time, I do feel like, from my perspective, that it is kind of another brainwashing document, just like the Quran is, but maybe on a different kind of level.
No, it's on a different kind of level.
Well, yeah,
you need to read it.
I've read some of it, but not enough to be able to really sit here and give you the. I'm sure there's some good parts in there, just like there's some good parts in the Christian Bible.
Right. And I'm not gonna.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to like compare the two and say they're equal to each other in any way.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm trying to. They are very, very different cultures and very, just in the fact that Sharia law tends to be an all-encompassing religion and political and economic structure. That to me is way too close to totalitarianism for me. Like I'm not.
It's deep, dude.
I'm not
like...
interested in that. As a matter of fact, if I had a choice between being ruled by Christians and being ruled by the U.S. government right now, I'd probably pick the Christians. I'm just saying. At least if I'm following Christianity, I have the option to do so. With the U.S. government, I don't have that choice. If I don't do what they say, anyway, you know where I stand on that. But I guess I think we covered everything we were wanting to talk about tonight. Yeah, we got yep, that's pretty much it. all the points I had to cover tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm just
sorry. What were your thoughts? Just out of curiosity, what was going through your head as I was reading that? Just
I think that there's a part of September 11th that is always missed. Mm-hmm. And I think because we've become a society built on the politics, the divisiveness is, just now the political correctness. We have gotten so far away from September 11th and for what it stood for in a very kind of morbid way, because people, their lives were lost. Mm-hmm. So when I'm listening to that, it's we did grow up as a country. It's been 18 years, and I'm severely disappointed in my fellow Americans because now it's just another day. It's just Memorial Day. It's 4th of July. Yeah. We celebrate it for one day, and then we go about our lives. This is something
we do the thoughts and prayers equivalent on social media this day.
Yeah, and I can be notorious for doing it, but the difference between me and probably most is that I'm pretty consistent throughout my patriotism when I discuss things or things that I post, and and that's always been evident. That's well documented, but I don't understand why we've become a society that's too busy. We don't have the time to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. It's a different time in which we live in. That's why I often wonder how September would be, well received if what happened in 2001 would have happened today. Yeah. I think that the correlations between the two. I hate to say this, as morbid as it sounds, but September 11th was almost in a way a good thing. In meaning that it brought so many people together, in a peaceful, harmony way.
You mean I don't know that you meant it was a good thing.
No, not as far as the attacks.
I think you just meant it had its positive sides as well.
Yeah, yes. Let me correct myself before that little clip gets blown way out of the fucking proportion.
Yeah, right.
I need to rephrase that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I meant.
There you have it, folks. Anthony, right here, just admitted 9/11 was a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. I just felt
And
like
he wishes it would happen again today.
no. I no, God no.
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 All right, I hear you.
I just think it really brought the best out in us as Americans and us as people, and the way we came together and the way we showed the patriotism that we did.
Right on.
I just wish that over the years we would have stayed consistent with it and not kind of fallen off on it.
All right, so you guys have been watching yet another episode of the Unframe of Mind show, and I don't think anybody would disagree that this has been yet another uncomfortable conversation without a condom, for sure. This has been a good one. I think I'd like to continue the conversation in the chat. So just if you have any other questions, any comments, just let us know. And if you want to be a guest on the show in future episodes, please head over to unframeofmind.com. And I'm going to ask a different favor today, if you guys don't mind. If you guys could head over to your favorite podcasting app and just give us a review on those apps, a 5-star review or whatever. I'm not going to tell you how many stars to give us, but I certainly hope for 5. That'd be great. If you guys could do that for us, that would be great, because we would like to get our numbers up in the podcast and get more people to see the show. And that's actually one of the main metrics that they use to determine which shows to put in front of people when they do searches.
So let me ask you this before we kind of get off. I guess live feed. So what are we looking like the next couple of weeks as far as the new studio?
Oh shit. We gotta wait.
Come on, man.
We gotta ways. Let's expect that.
It's always good to talk about the future,
6
especially
months
if you
from
have positive.
I'm working on building a new workspace / studio area.
Yeah.
Part of the issue with this small studio is we can't get enough space between us and this green screen right here.
Yeah.
That makes it a big.
Plus newer equipment too.
Yeah.
So.
Did anybody see that move when I did that? Oh wow, it doesn't even look like it moves. That's
Yeah.
cool.
That's wild.
That's cool. Anyway, no, there's a big issue with that. Let me show you here. Chroma key.
Hey.
Yeah, that's just what we look like without the background. Now there's the problem. This is we can't get that green screen back far enough, so this will give us a little more space where we're not casting our own shadows on there and ruining the effect.
Well, new lights, new cameras. We've already purchased one, so it's all coming together.
Yep, we're gonna have a new camera here probably in the next couple weeks. We gotta order one more part to have it all set up and ready to go. It's a DSLR camera, so it might actually be even better quality footage. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yep.
And anyway, until next week, I appreciate y'all hanging in there and watching us through the course of the show and interacting. It's been a lot of fun. Until next week.
All right.
Peace out.
Peace.